Okay, so I got the spindles and the dust shields all cleaned up and painted good enough. It's time to start installing all of the pieces and putting this frame back together. We'll be putting on the upper control arms today, and lower control arms, the springs. If you guys are ever thinking about doing this at home, man, you need to use every single safety precaution you can think of. Jack stands, you know, just everything. Safety glasses. This is really dangerous stuff. I've done this a few times. Schooled enough to know what's at least going on, and it still makes me nervous. So especially out here in my yard where I don't have all of the shop equipment and stuff. So I'm trying to show you that this can be done, at least for the most part. We'll probably move to a garage here pretty soon, but this can all be done outside, hand tools for the most part, maybe some specialty tools that you have to rent or something, but anyway, safety first for everything. You may want to get a professional to do the springs because they will take your head off. So anyway, let's get started. We're going to start with the upper control arm bushings and the upper control arms. Okay, so I have the original shims for the alignment. I'm sure they're going to be different when it's time to set the alignment because I've changed some pieces and that makes a difference. But it will at least get me in the ballpark. So we'll put the old shims back in it and tighten it down. And we're going to flip it over and start messing with the springs. And you'll see, if you've never seen an actual spring for one of these frames, it's a big, thick, heavy spring, and it can be scary. There we go, just like a bearing now. Okay, we're going to flip this over, get the lower control arms out, and start getting the springs in and getting the spindle back on, getting it all locked together and safe again. Okay, so let's show you where we're at. My son came down and helped me flip the frame over. The only thing I've done is I've set the upper control arms down on the ground, and I've taken the nuts off. Now we're going to prep and get ready to put the lower control arms on and deal with the springs. So I'll set this back on the tripod and I'll get all the organization done. We're going to set the spindles down on the upper control arm. We're going to run that ball joint stud through there and put the nut on it, and we're going to get the round rubber. We're going to put that round rubber spacer in the top where the spring would sit up there in the pocket, and there's no real keyway for the top part of the spring. The top part of the spring is actually kind of flat, but you'll see that in the lower control arms there is a position where the spring needs to be. It's kind of like being keyed in. I'll show you that later, but right now I'm going to get this all set up and organized to deal with the springs. So just seating it for right now. Good enough, it's seated. Okay, this is the spring cushion for the top. Yep, see, those are some pretty good sized springs. They will do some damage. If your face is in the way, you're in trouble. Okay, so now I'm going to grease the white neoprene pieces of the lower control arms on the outside. I left that part when I put the arms together for this. So I'll coat that, and then I'll coat the inside of the pocket where that's going to sit. We're going to throw some bolts in them. We're going to try and get the springs in there, get the springs positioned. And I have a spring compressor for this style of frame, so I still say though, get a professional. I think I want to go ahead and prepare all 4 of the pockets, make it easy on myself. I don't want to put grease on those until they're up off the ground, so. Don't be scared to put too much grease. It's a car. It ain't going to stay clean forever. Okay. Now we'll do the arms when we put them in. Okay. Okay, I've put grease on the bushings on the outside. We're going to throw them on the frame, and we're going to get ready for the springs. So my boy's here to help with that. I want the bolts to all face backwards myself. I screwed up the first time I did this when I was younger, and I replaced the lower bushings with rubber bushings. And what happened was I had one pointing the wrong way, and the header came down and was hitting it. So I'm going to torque these down somewhere between 80 and 100 foot-pounds. I think factory is somewhere around 100, so you want to be sure you know what you want to torque them to before you do it though. Okay, actually I am going to torque these to 80 foot-pounds because I checked the directions. That's what Global wants for this this application, so that's what we're going to do. Alright, we got a little sidetracked. We ran out of battery, so we never got a chance to film finishing this spring compressor, so I'm going to explain it. The first one I did, I started the process all wrong, and I fought it more than I actually fixed it, so that's not even worth showing. So I will show you this though. As you could see in the video before the battery cut out, we put the spring on top of the rubber spacer down there, the cushion facing up, and we lined it up so that the end of the spring would not be on this ramp right here. Actually, I can see through this hole, so the spring starts after the hole. So it's back here, and there's like a ramp right here that I didn't want the spring resting on. So we got that lined up, and I pushed it into the pocket, and we took this yellow bar and we pulled it until it popped back and it seated back here. And once it seated back there, we were able to get this compressor in there. Let me show you really quick, just so that you can at least be reasonably safe with one of these. Once it was in place, the spindle was already on the upper control arm, and the nut was already started on that one, and the nut for the lower ball joint was waiting for us. So this spring compressor goes through the shock hole, and I have a smaller washer because I want it to sit in that seat right there. That big washer is too big, so that sits in that seat. The rest of it's just spacer. And you lock it onto the spring down there, then you tighten it, and as it tightens, and you bring this up, and as you tighten that, the lower ball joint stud will go through the hole farther and farther until you can get the nut on it, and then you take this off and you're good to go. So you would probably want to finish the ball joint nuts before you take the spring compressor out, and go ahead and get them cotter pinned. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. So that's where we left off on that. So we did that, and now then we got rained out, so I've got some flash rust here that I have to clean up. I'm just going to use 4/0 steel wool and some spray lubricant. I'm going to steel wool it down to where it's shiny because it doesn't scratch. It's pretty fine stuff. And then we're going to put it back together. I'm going to grease this up, and we're going to put the dust plates back on, the rotors back on, just to protect this. I'm putting the old rotors back on because it's going to get brand new rotors, brand new races, brand new bearings, brand new bearing cups. So, but for the time being, to get this thing into a position of being a roller, I'm going to use them. So I'm going to put them back on. So right now where I stand is I got to clean that up, get the dust covers on, get the rotors on, get the cotter pins in the ball joints, which you should do first before you take this out. And then I'm going to clean up the tie rods, make them at least presentable and make them black. You know, not perfect, but black. And I'll put those on. Steering box, I'll probably clean it up. I'm deciding between the Alumacast silver or the black, we'll see. And then put the tires back on it, and we'll be ready to roll it back underneath the car. So let's go ahead. I'm going to clean up a little bit, and then we'll get started on getting this finished up. You see how easy that comes back off? It's just flash rust. It's not pitted, it's just rust, that film. It's a film. Okay, now the dust cover. These come with a, let's see, right there, nice little rubber bushing for cushion. It also seals the dirt out from behind it a little bit from getting down. I just used like a caliper paint on this. Okay. Okay, get the rotor back on there, but first I need to grease that up a little bit to make sure none of it stays dry, and we won't have to worry about any more flash rust. Okay. Yeah, this looks bad, guys, but like I said, they're not staying. It'd be all new. New bearings, new rotor, new seal, new cup, all of it. I'm going to show you how I adjust a bearing, and somebody might differ, but for right now this is going to make this thing roll so I can get it back on my car. So I'm seating the bearing, and I'm not cranking it down, I'm just seating it. Right there, that's seated. I'll spin it a little, make sure it's seated. Now with just the weight of my hand, basically, make sure that the pliers aren't rubbing anywhere. That's tight enough. You don't want to crank it down at all. Now if you have to move the nut, you probably want to move it a little bit looser. I wouldn't go any tighter, it's going to get hot. We got one that lines up anyway, so it's good. Okay, get the old cup. Now it's pretty well sealed from the elements. If it rains again, I shouldn't have any more of that flash rusting. So I'll probably clean out these holes one more time with a plastic bristle brush, not a metal one. And I'll clean it out good. I'll clean up the tie rods and get those on. So we got one more side to go, so might as well get started on that one. Cool. Coat that with a little bit of grease. Make sure it don't flash rust again. Get the rotor on there. And we'll see what time we got left. Okay, so we flipped the frame back over. So this is the last time we're going to flip it. So it's where it needs to be right now, and we'll put the finishing touches on it. It'll be down on the wheels and it'll be ready to roll. And then we're going to, next video, we're going to roll it over and put it on the car. make the car able to roll around, get back to the rolling chassis, and then we'll move on from there. So right now, let's put the steering box on. I've already got the bolts set in place. I've already wire wheeled them to clean them up. Okay, for this model of a car, the frame to box torque spec is about 70 foot-pounds. So we got to make sure that we're at 70 at least. There we go. Okay, next will be the tie rods. Okay. Now I got myself set up to get these tie rods on, so let's go ahead and get that started. We're going to start on this side over here. Get it attached to the steering box first. And you don't want to get crazy tight on those. It's good and seated. It ain't going nowhere. Okay. Now we're going to get this tie rod. And this particular tie rod, the cotter key is, the old one is stuck in the hole, so I'll have to either drill it out or get a new tie rod. Doesn't matter which. These tie rods have got not that many miles on them, so I might just drill it out. And just so you know, I do have a list of things that I come across while I'm putting this together, so it'll be a finish list. Like the cotter pin over there, it's already written down on a list that I have to get that done before I can actually call the car done. So it's got to be marked off the list and done before I consider it finished. Everybody should have one of those. Okay. Now I need to get set up for the idler arm. Okay, here comes the fun part. Gotta try to get these through the hole without dropping the bolt. Well, there's one. I just can't believe I got that lucky. 2 in a row. There we go. Looks pretty good. And now we're going to roll up some tires and get some tires on it. Clean up my tools a little bit. And they'll be ready to hit the ground. And 2 is good enough for rolling this thing around for a while. Okay, the next video is going to be on the ground and ready to roll underneath the car. So next video is going to be frame install. Have a good one, guys.